Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday evening to you all. Hope you all have had a great weekend so far and a great day out there. Going to give you an evening update on really what's happening for tomorrow as severe weather chances have increased. I guess I lied to you guys once again, telling you guys we're going to have some calm weather coming up. I will tell you, this really just looks like a damaging wind threat. The tornado threat's not very high. The hail threat's not very high. It's really a damaging wind driven enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to give you some information on what's potentially could happen in the Western Atlantic and the Caribbean as the GFS just really isn't backing down, guys, in its ensembles. It really wants to continue to show not necessarily a threat, but some kind of tropical activity down there in the Western Atlantic, south of Cuba, on the Atlantic side of Central America and the ocean, obviously. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and what has changed today. And then I think if we can start to consistently have this look per the GFS, and as we get into about Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, we can get a lot more detailed on this and we can really start to open up the book on what potentially could happen. So if you guys have not subscribed, definitely consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Appreciate the support. If you guys got anything that I can pray about, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it and gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's get rolling this evening. It's not going to be a very long video, kind of like the one last night, but there is some things to talk about that we need to go over. So right now, this is for tomorrow. A pretty large slight risk. This is stretching from areas of Oklahoma City all the way to Cincinnati, Ohio. So, and it's all the way up into southeast areas of Nebraska. And then you have this enhanced risk, which is this area right here. This area has seen a lot of severe weather, pretty much the entire southern part of Missouri, northwest Arkansas, which has been under the gun for all kinds of weather this year so far, and then areas of eastern Oklahoma. The tornado threat with this, very low, 2% risk of 25 miles in any given location, but the wind threat, 30% risk in this enhanced region for damaging winds, 25 miles in any given point. So that is what is driving this enhanced risk. There is a hail threat, 15% risk inside this huge yellow area, but really the biggest threat is this damaging wind threat. So let's go on and just jump right into it. We'll give it a more broad, whole entire southeast, eastern look at this really quick here, and look at the HRRR model. And if you keep your eyes on this is the energy that's going to work its way like a northwest flow, and it's going to work its way southeast through areas of southern Missouri and then northern Arkansas. We keep this rolling. We're getting into, I would say, about midday. And then this piece of energy will continue to drift southeast. Now with it, you could have like a Boeing line of storms. A damaging wind threat is definitely there. But if you keep your eyes on all this area also, you're having a lot of pop-up showers and storms. There's also a severe weather threat in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow, which was also actually the threat that I was the most concerned about. I'm not really overly concerned about any of this except the damaging wind threat, but this was actually the area I was the most concerned about as far as talking severe weather. But, y'all are going to have probably some severe weather here in the mid-Atlantic tomorrow, but really the biggest threat is this little line of storms that's going to work its way through Arkansas, areas of western Tennessee, and then eventually into the afternoon, evening hours, get into northwest Mississippi for sure. So let's go on and flip a little bit closer look for Arkansas and surrounding sections of each state. And you get this going here. I hate when this does this. It goes in 2-hour intervals. And, really as early as late morning to midday. You guys in southern Missouri are going to be under the gun. So you guys are going to have a rocky commute to church or anything you got going on tomorrow for sure. But then as we get into the early afternoon hours, this atmosphere begins to destabilize. Cape levels are high. So you have the storm fuel. You got dew points rising ahead of this line, which are pretty high in the 60s and 70s. And you're going to have basically the juice here for this leftover energy, this surging from the northwest for it to strengthen right here briefly. And so watch out Memphis, late afternoon, early evening hours. You guys could be under the gun for a damaging line of storms. But really, I think this has a chance to be its most intense right in this area. And this will continue to drift southeast and bring some nasty weather for areas of western Tennessee into the evening hours, and then northern Mississippi, and then slowly kind of dissipate as it works its way deeper into Mississippi and then areas of northern Alabama. Then more storms fire up behind it later at night in northern Arkansas. So you have to watch out for that too as another surge. It's kind of like what happened several hours before this. Overnight surges through central Arkansas and surges a little bit further south and in a more southerly direction as opposed to a southeast direction in the first piece of energy. And this will go throughout the night tomorrow night. So, definitely some active weather for Arkansas in general and surrounding states over the next really, probably 36 hours. So, I'll give you an updated, some updated information on that in the morning. We can get much more detailed on it and see what the latest models are showing. So it'll be ongoing probably in the morning, but we'll give you some good information. As far as what's happening and what potentially could happen in the Western Atlantic, which is this region right here, includes the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, places like this. Keep your eyes on this. This is starting Friday morning, this coming Friday morning, not obviously the Friday morning just passed. You see this big blob of green, yellow, and red? This is basically energy coming off of Central America, really developing, and then it develops a low pressure by the time we get into the middle part of next weekend. So around really this time next weekend, we could be talking about some kind of tropical system down here, whether it's named, whether it's not. The GFS likes the idea of something down here. Now, the waters are pretty warm down here. They're in the low 80s, some mid 80s in this area, but it hasn't really warmed up substantially down here in this area. But it's the Caribbean for a reason. You got the warm waters, the pretty waters down here. But, the GFS really wants this to rapidly intensify. I wouldn't call it rapid intensification, but it has whatever's here as we're getting into about 8 or 9 days out, strengthening pretty quickly. And then riding the Yucatan, and then it gets into about the 10 days out, and then as you get into around the week of the 23rd, 24th, so for example, you're looking at this is May 24th, you got this thing, riding just west of Cuba, trying to sneak into the Gulf of Mexico. It's all over the place. It rides over Cuba, then it wants to shoot it off the eastern U.S., but if you look at the run before that, it has it in the Gulf of Mexico. So it's everywhere, especially in the longer range of this. But what we do know is we are starting to get in a range now where we're starting to become a little bit more comfortable of saying, hey, this is now a reasonable possibility for something to form down here per the GFS. The European, some of the ensembles are biting on it, but really the GFS and the GFS ensembles are really just gung-ho about this thing. So really, if the GFS ends up winning this, meaning it beats out the other models and something actually ends up forming, this will be a major win for the GFS. It really would. You think about it. I think personally, if you get a named storm out of this system right here, I'm not talking about if it gets into the Gulf of Mexico and threatens the U.S., but if you get a named storm out of this, if it takes the first name out of the hurricane list for 2022, which is Alex, that is a major win for the GFS. If absolutely nothing ends up forming out of this, it is a major embarrassment for the GFS, honestly. And the reason is because it's not like the GFS has showed this for a couple runs and then it just quit. It is consistently for the last 4 or 5 days, about 3 or 4 days, showed something down here. So for it to stick to its guns so hard, it's either very hard-headed and won't get a grip on reality, or either it's on to something. So we'll continue to watch it. You look at the ensembles, which are coming out right now, still got a signal down here. You look at all these little small numbers, that's basically where it's trying to say a low pressure could be. It's not where, it's going to be multiple low pressures. That's not what this is. It's ensembles. So it's one of many members that are showing here in the Caribbean. So we have to figure out what's going to happen here, but it likes the idea of whatever this is getting into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So we really have to see what's going to happen with this. One thing I want to mention, the latest GEFS ensembles. Now, this is going to be probably a little bit more difficult to understand for some, and understandably so, because this is not easy stuff to figure out. Even I'm still learning. But you see the big area of red on your screen? That is what you call ridging. Now, you got blue, and we've talked about this, and you obviously don't really see any blue on your map, but if you look really close up here, the blue you see on your map, which you can see on the key right here, that is what we call troughing, or symbolizing some kind of low pressure. Now, we're getting into next weekend. Right here is where our low pressure will be if it forms. Now, I know you're thinking, well, why isn't it showing anything? Don't focus too much on that. Think of this as if there is a piece of energy right here. Now, I want you to focus on the color right here, this reddish color. Now, I'm going to back this up. I've done this before. I'm going to back it up like, I would say 6 runs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Watch the movement of this. What ridging does, and we'll talk about more of this in hurricane season, ridging and troughing and even cutoff lows, they act as steering currents for these tropical systems. So when you have blocking like this, which is ridging, they normally are steered by the steering currents around this. So this is the steering currents probably wrapping around this, going like this, right? If you have a big time ridging on top of whatever system could be right here, then it's probably going to get pushed this way or try to get pushed around it or something like that. So it's kind of hard to explain, but when we have a real scenario here, I can explain a heck of a lot more. But this is something that you really look at as far as steering currents for tropical systems. So I'm going to go to all the way to the most present run. So you notice on this particular GEFS run, you have ridging way up here, which allows this thing to get all the way into the Gulf of Mexico. So we take it all the way to the most present run. Bang, 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 bang. Notice, yeah, you don't have as heavy ridging up here anymore, but you have light ridging more so over the Gulf of Mexico now. So in general, this ridging, even over here, is beginning to nudge more into the Caribbean. So whatever forms here, especially if it's weak, is going to get nudged and pushed a little bit more into Central America. If you think about it, the European doesn't have anything forming in this region. And that might be why, because it likes the idea of a stronger ridge pushing whatever this is more into the Pacific side. So the GFS is known to have a weak ridge bias, meaning it always wants to have a more weaker ridge, meaning it normally is sometimes off when it comes to steering currents with tropical systems, meaning it pulls it in direction where it doesn't end up going. But one thing the GFS has been pretty well at lately is sniffing out tropical systems. And it's the same thing when it comes to winter storms. Is basically what it shows at 240 hours out end up being the final solution? Absolutely not, but that's never the solution with any kind of model. So we look at this kind of stuff when we start to get more into the mid-range and obviously close range when trying to forecast where a tropical storm, hurricane may hit. But anyways, you look at the Euro. The Euro don't want nothing to do with any kind of low pressure forming down here. I mean, it just shows blobs of rain over Central America, and that's it. It doesn't even really pop up anything here on the Pacific side. So there's a lot to figure out. But as far as that, that's all we know. You know, it's a pretty funny, it's a friendly kind of back and forth battle on social media right now. You know, a lot of people are saying the GFS is basically full of crap, and then there's others saying, hey, you know, you got to put some respect on GFS's name. But let me tell you, if nothing ends up coming out of this, it's definitely going to be a big flop by the GFS. But we're just spitting it how it is. We'll try to figure this out, but I'm not confident either way right now. But I'm starting to grow a little bit more confidence that something is going to be in this area by the time we get into this time next week. So that's all I got, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll give you an update on that severe weather threat for your Sunday in the morning. God bless all y'all and stay safe.